Bill Belichick, who said this of Manning: he's definitely the best quarterback I've coached against. There have been quarterbacks who called their own plays, but it was nowhere near the same as what he did. He excelled at using the cadence and recognizing blitzes. More than any one single offensive player, he forced us to change and adapt defensive game plans. And so I think the comparison between these two, who were the preeminent figures of their era, the two great legendary quarterbacks of their era, and who will always be remembered together and compared against each other. Let me start, D. Wood, with you, because you played with Brady, obviously, and you would face it off against Peyton Manning. The similarities and the differences and the comparison there between those two, when you hear them, what do you think?
Yeah, listen, you know, when people talk about Tom Brady, most of it was the fear, especially at the end of the games, the last 2 minutes. Oh, Tom Brady has the ball last. You know, what's going to happen? You know, with Peyton Manning, it's the chess game within the game that just, you know, stoked fear in his opponents. You know, just as an offensive guy, I would literally sit on the sideline and watch Peyton Manning just orchestrate from the line of scrimmage, time after time, play after play, just, you know, meticulous drives all the way down the field, and it was just a work of art. You know, that's what I always said about Peyton Manning. He was an artist because the way he was able to script plays in a series throughout a game was unlike anything I've ever seen in my whole life.
Now, Sacho, you played against both of these guys, and the preparation, I know that's the most important piece that you wanted to mention.
Yeah, no, it's different. Like, I played against Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, but playing against Peyton Manning is just different. Like, when you hear that Omaha call as a defender, you start getting chills because you know as soon as he says it, you're done. There was a time we played them in 2014 or so when we were playing them, and he knew our play before we even called the play. Like, he said, "Hut, hut, hut, hut." All of a sudden, he starts making audibles and checks, and 50 wants the mic. I'm like, oh, we're done. Next thing you know, a couple touchdowns later, a couple, 300, 400 passing yards later, he would just tear us apart. And I think that Tom Brady obviously is the GOAT. We can talk about that. Look at his rings. But playing against Peyton Manning, it just is really, really difficult because even in the week of preparation, you don't even know, like, how do I not give my stuff away? Is my stance, am I showing something? Safety's got to be in line. Linebackers got to be in line. There's so much you have to worry about when playing against Peyton Manning.
And Jeff, that respect from Belichick, I'm always fascinated because he is one generally to give tacit praise to literally everyone. But lavishing this enormous praise on Peyton Manning, as he has always been willing to do, has always struck me as interesting, particularly now when we consider whatever dynamic really did and does exist between Belichick and Brady.
Right. Well, let's ask him about that quote after week 4 of this season when he has to play against Tom Brady. And that's the thing, Greeny. Tom Brady's still with Peyton Manning. No matter how prepared Peyton always was trying to be, somehow Tom always had that little edge. And I was telling you a story about this time when Wes Welker and Peyton Manning are driving on the bus into Foxborough for a cold weather game. Brady always so good in cold weather games. And Wes goes to Peyton. He says, you know what Tom always does in these cold weather games? He wears a neoprene wetsuit underneath his pads to keep himself warm. And Peyton looks at Wes as they're pulling into the stadium and says, you couldn't have told me that like a week ago? And I feel like that's always the deal with Peyton and Tom. It's always Peyton chasing Tom, and Tom just always having that edge no matter how much Peyton tried. That's why, to me, Tom is always going to be the GOAT.
Yeah, the GOAT piece of it, I think, is the GOAT is out of the barn, if you will. There's really no debate when you sit back and look at the accomplishments, but that does not mean that facing off against Peyton Manning, I think Rex, if he was here, we got to get Rex on. I'll get him on the radio or something. Rex would tell you he was always much more afraid facing Peyton than he was facing Tom Brady. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.